Hey everybody, before we get started, I just want to remind you this episode is brought to you by our patrons like Ahika Comics, Qua, Jeremy Vasquez, Kylie Denton, Nestor Flores, Sotosan0424, and VideoGamer75. If you like what we do and want to see us do more, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early and lots of the goodies, and it would really help us out. Thanks for your support, everybody. When you've eliminated all which is impossible, then whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. Hello everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk FGO Wanted, the show where we let you know where you want to roll some 5 stars. Kinda, sorta. Anyway, man, damn, it's good to be back here. Doing a Wanted that's a real one. None of this censorship, redacting stuff. Not that I don't know that you guys appreciate it. Sorry, there was a double negative there. I should have phrased that better. I know you guys appreciate it, but man, I'm glad we're probably pretty done with those because, those are a pain in the butt to edit and always make me wonder, man, am I doing this right? I hope I'm not goofing up the editor like when shifting around the audio and stuff. It's just kind of a pain in the butt to handle. And maybe if I had slightly more sophisticated audio software, I could do it, but then I'd have to learn all new tricks and stuff. Anyway, it's not a big deal. We're here. We're doing a normal FGO Wanted, and that means that this is, in fact, an episode of FGO Wanted, which is broken up into 4 segments. We're going to talk about the characters' real-life history and stuff, for certain values of real life. We're going to talk about their fate lore with some L's. We're going to talk about then their mechanics, what they actually do as a servant, if they do anything cool, what you want out of them, where they stack up against other servants. And then we'll talk about their rarity. Not their star rarity, but how frequently their rate-ups are. This is especially important for limited servants like today's servant. Because in case you can't tell from that quote, it's time to talk about Sherlock Holmes. World's greatest detective, Sherlock Holmes. Yes, I say that every time he appears in story. But yes, he is limited. He will be appearing for the anniversary banner on a constant rate-up. And if you're interested in stuff about Da Vinci, go check out our Da Vinci Wanted that I did. Because, I really wanted a Da Vinci, but as of this recording, I don't have one. So we'll see if fortune is on my side. Anyway, we're going to talk about Holmes, which I'm super excited about. Because, god damn, do I love mystery novels. So, let's just jump into it. Holmes, Sherlock, famous character, prolific subject of Arthur Conan Doyle's stories. 56 short stories and 4 novels constitute what's considered the Holmes canon, which is actually interesting enough because there is basically a fandom subject called The Great Game, or the Sherlockian Game, which is basically Holmes scholars try to figure out inconsistencies or gaps in the canonical state of Sherlock Holmes. So super fun if you're interested in that sort of stuff. The way you play the game is that you treat Holmes and Watson as real people and Conan Doyle as Watson's literary agent. And, try and figure out scholarly analysis, stuff like that. Real fun, real interesting. And also, this sort of stuff is kind of important to Holmes' character and fate, but we'll come back to that. So, Sherlock Holmes, famous consulting detective, always solving cases, lives at 221B Baker Street. There's, maps and stuff. This is such a subject of pop culture that, there's all kinds of replicas and representatives. All sorts of things going on there. He is considered to be one of the best-known fictional detectives. According to Guinness Book of World Records, he is the most portrayed movie character in history, and just such a deep pop culture. In addition to the original canon constructed by Conan Doyle, starting with A Study in Scarlet, he's been the subject of stage and radio plays, television, films, video games, comics, all kinds of stuff. Just a big old heap and helping. I'm not going to really super deep dive on the lore because there's a lot of stories and a lot of little aspects to pop in, but we can do broad strokes. There's a lot of different aspects in there. Holmes, for instance, has a brother, Mycroft Holmes, who is said to be smarter than Holmes, or smarter than Sherlock, but is lazier. He's got a interesting friendship with his good old pal Watson, Dr. Watson, his associate, who plays an excellent role in being the illustrator. Holmes has, of course, got a wide variety of skills. You know, deep knowledge in lots of stuff. He's known for his deductions, though technically that is called actually abductive reasoning, but that's a deep semantic discussion for a different time. But basically, the Sherlock Holmes move, sometimes called the Sherlock scan, is his ability to infer an explanation for many absurd details. You know, he's like... well, actually, I'll give you an example from a scandal in Bohemia, where Holmes determines something about Watson. He notices that Watson has some cuts on his leather boot. And he realizes that they must have been caused by someone who was very clumsy scraping the mud off his boots because he had been out in vile weather recently. Yes, so very interesting. He's got a lot of those abilities. That said, he's also fond of hard evidence, a master of forensic science of the time, and employs a lot of techniques that historically were very new, like fingerprints, ballistics, and so on. He's also a master of disguise, often employs various informants and things, very well-rounded, and not what you might expect from a famous detective. He can also throw a punch or two. He's said to be good with pistols, described as a fencer and a swordsman, and a master of unarmed combat in the form of Baritsu, which was probably Conan Doyle misremembering the word or choosing not to render it correctly for Bartitsu, which is a jujitsu and cane fencing technique. Anyway, super cool stuff. Wide variety of skills, and just, if you want to know more, just pick up a study in Scarlet and get started. There's so much to work from. Heck, just, watch your favorite movie or TV show or adaptation of a TV show. All kinds of stuff. Lots of very interesting things. Though, yes, if you're curious, it is noted in some novels that not only is Holmes a frequent smoker, but also it was said occasionally that he would dabble in cocaine and morphine at certain times when he was not physically stimulated by cases. So, that's an interesting fact. Most people don't think about it. Though, if you're curious, the first book, A Study in Scarlet, was published in 1887. So, got some stuff. So, that's our executive version on the quote-unquote real-life Holmes. But like I said, that's actually a really interesting, fun thing going on there. Let's talk about him in Fate. So, Sherlock Holmes appears as a character. Well, he appears first in the so-called Camelot Singularity, though he implies that he was active in London. And contributes other ways. He appears in the first epic of Remnant Shinjuku, of fucking course, because his greatest adversary, the Napoleon of Crime, is there. But also, he appears in the second half of Agartha to offer you some exposition and deduce some stuff, and he will appear at further points. He becomes basically a permanent story character, so expect to see a lot of him in future. He will also have a trial quest with his release that will explain some things, like why he's a ruler all of a sudden. So Holmes introduces himself as a caster, and given his extensive knowledge on subjects that if you are in an urban fantasy universe that Sherlock Holmes understands a little bit of magecraft is not crazy. But he introduces himself as a caster, and then he becomes a ruler. So the theory for that put forward, and we'll wait for the trial quest to come out in English for like an exact translation, but the general idea is that because of Holmes' nature as an inquisitive sort, if he was left to his own devices as a caster, he would cause some problems by revealing some truth that shouldn't be revealed and unpackaging some things that don't need unpackaging. So his Saint Graph is basically altered to be a ruler, to be a neutral arbiter. So he's on our side, he's here to make sure everything goes well, like a lot of the other summonable rulers, but he's got certain limitations about his, neutrality. He's supposed to be a separate force, kind of working on behalf of stuff, not just solving things for the sake of it, because he likes to solve. So that's a very interesting aspect to him. And it's also frequently questioned, especially in the subject of Shinjuku, is Sherlock Holmes a real person or is he fictional? Was he based on a real person that became emphasized by fiction? While relatively new, there's a lot of that aspect to him. And that's why I talked about earlier the Sherlockian game, the fact that there are people who treat Holmes and write about him and theorize on him as if he was a real person using the so-called literary agent hypothesis. So fate doesn't quite, as far as I know anyway, maybe there's like a throwaway line somewhere that people have missed or I didn't catch, but I believe that fate generally doesn't necessarily answer this question, but it's more of an ambiguous so it could be that there was like an archetype, a skeleton, not strong enough to be a heroic spirit on his own, but there was a real person who was vaguely Sherlock Holmes-like that Conan Doyle wrote about, or that, movies and films were based on, and then because people treat it as real, because he has pervaded the collective unconsciousness, the popular culture so much, it kind of amplifies this person who was maybe not as real as we think into Sherlock Holmes as we know him as a full-blown 5-star character. Unlike Moriarty, who was only like halfway to a heroic spirit, he was a phantom, So it's all very interesting. And very cool. And like I said, you will not be running out of appearances by Mr. Sherlock Holmes in FGO. All right. Well, let's take a step down. Let's switch my graphics and pop on over to mechanics to talk about what, as a ruler, Holmes actually does. So, mechanisms. All right. So Holmes is a ruler. That means he takes reduced damage from most things. Deals extra damage to moon cancer, etc. There are a few that are still neutral. Now, out of our esteemed rulers, which is a very interesting selection, most rulers do different things, basically. Holmes is the ruler with the highest attack period, but that's not necessarily saying a lot because rulers are kind of known for their HP, and he does have quite a lot of HP. He comes out to be the middle-ish. He's still got more HP than the 4-star rulers, but is the lowest of the 5 stars kind of thing. Makes sense for him. It's pretty good. So you can see from our lovely stat spread, those angles on there. Got a pretty decent NP charge, considering he's QQAAB, with decent hit counts on both quick and arts, even on his buster too, but for NP gen, we care about the arts and quick. So he should generate NP pretty decently. He'll generate even more when we talk about some other stuff he does. You can see their star absorption, a very round middle number. But again, we'll talk some more about some stuff going on there. And great extra hits. So Holmes is interesting. He's an art-focused offensive support / critty type ruler. Like, you might be thinking about with previous rulers, like, okay, so, you use Jeanne, especially now that she's had her NP interlude, she is pure stall with arts characters. Drop invincibles on team, remove debuffs. When her skills actually proc and can proc, they can be very useful for stalling. She's got a special servant stun. Not the best, but helps sometimes. Amakusa is known for his issues with attacking, but also that, theoretically, his NP is good for an AoE burst, which also has that special clear buffs on all enemies kind of thing. It's very handy. Also, previous ruler Martha is kind of a weird, punchy ruler, right? She's very buster-focused, got a very interesting sort of handling. Great for moon cancer bosses now. So, Holmes's NP, elementary, my dear, decreases all enemies' defense with a 500% chance, so it will almost assuredly stick unless they have debuff immunity for 3 turns. This is based on NP level, so it starts at 30% and goes up to 50%, so that's pretty good no matter what NP level you are. But God forbid you actually have an NP5 Sherlock Holmes. 50% defense down for 3 turns sucks a lot for them. It gives all allies ignore defense, which should ignore defense up buffs. I'd have to double check if defense ignoring does anything else. I think that's all it does. It gives all allies 3 whole turns of ignore invincible, so fuck your invincible and fuck your evades. And increases all allies' critical strength for 3 turns. This is overcharge based. It starts at 50% and goes up to 100%. So, once again, really good scaling spread, very decent at overcharge level 1, considering it's 3 turns, right? So just 50% crit up for 3 turns for free. So, yes, that's very potent. What this does is your enemy's defense goes down. Your allies will be able to ignore invincible and defensive buffs, and they will be able to crit harder. Very scary power move, right? But it's supportive. So it doesn't do any damage on its own, but it means there will be a lot of damage in future. Very important when you're firing this off to figure out stuff. And that's also why it's really good that it's 3 turns. So you have a little bit of wiggle room when you trigger all these buffs to actually use them. So let's talk about his skills. He has a very good skill kit, never needed to be upgraded. Here it all is. He starts with Natural Insight. This gives you 10 to 20 critical stars and applies NP Seal to one enemy for 1 turn every 5 turns. Very decent skill. If you choose not to level it, that's 10 stars. 20 is decent. There are better crit star drops, but it also has a defensive ability in that it gives 1 turn of NP Seal every 5 turns. That's pretty decent. NP Seal is very effective, or at least it has a lot of uses. So now, in addition to, obviously, his star generation is also pretty middle of the road, but he has 3 hit quick guards and he has 2 of them, so he could probably do alrightish. Not the bestish, but better than some, certainly. But now you don't need to worry about his quick guards. You can just star drop. Deductive reasoning. This is kind of the kicker. So, you know how I said Holmes is kind of critty himself? Well, here's how. First off, it gives him 3 turns of debuff immunity every 5 turns. That's just great. It's flattered immunity, no times or anything. And then it gives him 300 to 600% critical star gather rate. So, with a already middle of the road star absorption, that's a pretty big deal. You probably still want to max that out to be safe, but, multiplying your star absorption by 6 every 5 turns. It's only for 1 turn, though, so keep that in mind. But that's a very power turn move. And then, hey, running this out, he's got 5 turn cooldowns and everything. Baritsu B++, increases your art effectiveness for 1 turn. It's basically a blue mana burst, 30 to 50%. And then you get 1 turn of evade. Now, obviously, putting your defensive skills on your steroids, that sucks a little bit. People don't like that necessarily. But Holmes does have the ability to force the enemy to basically stall an extra turn if you need it by sealing their NP, if it sticks. Otherwise, maybe you just, put another defensive in there. But this means that combined with his one and only passive skill of Territory Creation EX, remember how I said that Holmes isn't really supposed to be a ruler, he's supposed to be a caster, but shenanigans happened? Yeah, so he only has 1 passive skill as a caster type. But it's really great because his arts cards are super enhanced. That means that NP charge attack that I already said was pretty good for 3 hits, like on the higher side, is even better, 12% up, and then up to 50 more %. So basically what happens is, give Holmes a power turn with his arts, give him star up, and do, like, NPAA with steroid, and he'll be doing big bucks art crits on the enemy. We're talking 50% crit damage up for 3 turns, while he's ignoring invincible and ignoring defense, and the enemy's defense is decreased by 30%. And he's just, punching these home with his steroid, and then you're ready to just keep dropping NPs, and you wait for your skills to cycle around again, or not, you don't even need to. So, he has a very strong bomb turn. You pop all his skills at once, you'll do a super big beat 'em up, but also he buffs everybody on your team and debuffs all enemies, so you can easily have him combo with other characters who are arts or crits focused. Oops, bumped my microphone. Sorry about that. I was gesticulating. But yeah, so he works in a synergy with other arts characters in an offensive capacity, different than how, say, Jean works in a defensive capacity, while still being supportive, but also can easily carry his own weight, because those are going to be some serious modifiers, right? Not only do crits deal enhanced damage on their own, but he's also increasing damage further with his NP, and then the Baritsu turn hits a lot. That's probably the one weakness I'd say to Holmes, is be careful. Yes, his skills, if you get them all leveled all the way to, all of them leveled to 10, which can be a pain in the butt for an SSR. You will have all of them on a lovely 5-turn cooldown, a very short span, but most of the important effects only really last 1 turn. Critical stars only last a turn, right? It's just a single infusion of stars. The star absorption up on deductive reasoning only lasts 1 turn. The evade and the arts effectiveness only last 1 turn. So it's easy to fire up his NP bonuses and then say, wait for a really good turn to use Holmes in a different capacity because of the duration. Or you can fire right away, like I said, with NPAA. So he's got a lot of flexibility. And he's got a couple of defensive moves. I'd be careful, though, about if you're in like a one-on-one, not necessarily proccing evade at the same time you proc NPCL, because then you're kind of wasting it. But, stuff happens. In general, if I'm talking about CEs, you're going to want anything that enhances arts, anything that enhances crits. Possibly passive star improvement, but he does have a skill for that anyway, so you might just go ahead and go for all arts or crit enhancement, Shoot. Which one is it? I think is it Another Side? And then Victor from the Moon is the Buster one? I can never remember which one of those is which, but the Hakudan CE, the arts one, that's a good one for him, probably, along with others. Team Comp, Tomo, obviously, art support, get his cooldowns going faster, get him generating NP faster on his own, healing, because he can't do any of that himself, and just enable Holmes to arts crit big. Anybody else who, off the top of my head, star generators for intrinsic star generators for arts, I'm not thinking of any, but Caskill is good because he will enhance that for you. Very good support. In general, arts characters, if you're lucky enough to get him, you can run him with Jean because she generates stars per turn and can kind of like compensate with her invincibility and other stuff to block your team, and so on and so forth. Mash goes really well in here with some of her abilities, further attack buffs on her NP, so on and so forth. So those are the sort of things to keep in mind, everybody, with Sherlock Holmes. And despite being a ruler who generally you guys don't think of them as offensive, he can pack in some hurt with his skills in the right combo, while obviously still being very tanky, as is suited to rulers. So let's wrap this up by talking about Rarity. How often does he come up? The answer is not often. If you want a Holmes opportunity, it's best to get him while it's good. He will appear in the 2nd anniversary celebration upcoming. He will return for the 3rd anniversary upcoming. Hopefully for the 4th anniversary that Japan's about to have in about a month or so, but we'll see. And then at the Sherlock Holmes themed murder at the Kogitsukan event, he will also come back. So, yeah, you don't got a lot of opportunities to go for him. I'm kind of sad I can't really fire in on the anniversary because I'm saving a lot of my courts for a second pass at summer, because that's the way it works in NA. Because I really like him, because like I said, really like detectives and stuff. I mean, I've read more Nero Wolfe than I have Sherlock Holmes, but still, detective novels, everybody. All right, and that's us. We're at the end. We produced a perfectly normal wanted video. Hopefully you know whether or not you want Sherlock Holmes now. And good luck on your rolls, everybody. So, let's go ahead and wind down. I will tell you to stay tuned for future Let's Talk FGO episodes, where I'm sure we'll have other stuff talking about the trial quest, rolls, results, etc. So on and so forth, and furthermore, as well as other news concerning the anniversary and other stuff going on. And check out other videos. Feel free to, like I said, check out our backlog of Wanted. You can find out stuff about Da Vinci and other characters who may be on raid up during this segment. And that'll keep you informed and entertained. And whatever form the video is, I'll see you next time. So don't forget to like this video if you like it. Keeps everything in circulation, lets people know you appreciate it. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section down below. You can also join our Discord. That link is in the description. And, of course, if you're new here and have not already, please subscribe to the channel to continue getting more Wanted videos and other FGO content that we do about stuff. And other non-FGO content we do sometimes, like What's Up. Happy to watch What's Up. Even if you're already subscribed, considering that bell for notifications, so you always know when we post a new video. I know some of you wait with bated breath for me to post Wanteds before you roll. So, always get them little alerts. And, like it says at the front of the show, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to this episode early. You can get access to audio downloads of our podcast shows. Lots of other goodies and integration, and it really does help us out, It's helped me get some tech and stuff to run the show. It's helped Lucky afford some other stuff, tech and things going forward, and helps us out. All right. Well, then, I'll see you guys, and everybody remember, it's elementary.